Last night, Donald found a receipt in Melania's purse, a lavish dinner for two at a restaurant they never visited. She claimed it was a work meeting, but the wine, the late hour, and her new perfume tell a different story. Today, Donald's on a mission to uncover the truth, and what he finds will turn his world upside down. Donald's whistle cut through the humid Austin morning, sharp and commanding, as he coached his high school soccer team through drills. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but his focus never wavered, guiding a shy freshman to perfect a penalty kick. The kid beamed after nailing it, and Donald clapped him on the shoulder, earning a chorus of cheers from the team. By 7:30 a.m., practice ended, and he headed home, his truck bouncing over the uneven streets of their quiet suburb. He pulled into the driveway, noticing Melania's sleek sedan parked haphazardly on the street, blocking half the sidewalk. She'd rushed out again, muttering about an early client meeting. Inside, the house was silent except for the hum of the coffee maker she'd left on. A note on the counter read, "Move my car, please, trash cans in the way." Donald sighed, grabbing her keys from the hook by the door. Her purse sat on the couch, unzipped, as if she'd tossed it there in a hurry. He reached for the keys, but his fingers brushed something else, a folded slip of paper. Curiosity tugged at him. He unfolded it. A receipt from the Driscoll Hotel's restaurant, timestamp 10:47 p.m. last night. 2 entrees, a $200 bottle of Cabernet. Melania had texted him at 9 p.m., saying she was stuck at the office, working late. His pulse quickened. They never went to the Driscoll, too extravagant for their usual date nights. And wine? Melania always avoided it during the week, claiming it dulled her edge for work. He scanned the receipt again, noting the server's name, the table number. Each detail felt like a weight, pressing against the trust he'd built with her over 7 years of marriage. He folded the paper exactly as it was, slid it back into the purse, and grabbed the keys. Outside, he dragged the trash can to its spot by the garage, its wheels scraping the pavement. He moved her car into the driveway, aligning it perfectly, but his hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. Back inside, Donald poured coffee, the mug's warmth grounding him. He replayed last night, Melania coming home after midnight, her voice breezy as she mentioned a tough meeting. She'd gone straight to the shower, leaving her phone face down on the nightstand. He hadn't thought much of it then. Now it gnawed at him. He opened her planner, left on the kitchen counter. Today's page had a single letter, C, in red ink. No meetings, no names, just that cryptic mark. His stomach tightened. Melania was meticulous. Her planner usually overflowed with color-coded notes. This blankness felt deliberate. He didn't call her. Instead, he dialed Sarah, his old college friend who now ran a private investigation firm downtown. "I need a favor," he said, voice low. He explained the receipt, the late nights, the odd vibe he couldn't shake. Sarah listened, her tone professional but warm. "I'll look into it." Discreetly. "You sure you want to know?" Donald hesitated, then said, "I have to." He hung up, staring at the kitchen counter. The receipt's details burned into his mind. By noon, Melania texted, "Meeting ran long, grabbing lunch with the team." Donald's jaw clenched. He drove to the community center, where he volunteered to prep for a weekend fundraiser. Setting up tables, he bantered with other volunteers, but his thoughts kept drifting. Was she really at lunch? Who was C? He forced himself to focus, hauling boxes of decorations, but the questions lingered like a shadow. That evening, Melania came home, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She dropped her purse on the couch, same spot as before, and flashed a tired smile. "Crazy day," she said, heading to the fridge. "You okay?" Donald nodded, stirring pasta on the stove. "Just a long one." He watched her pour a glass of water, her movements quick, almost nervous. She pulled out her phone, smiled at the screen, then flipped it face down when he glanced over. "Work stuff," she said unprompted. He didn't push, but the air between them felt charged, like a storm brewing. After dinner, she retreated to the bedroom, claiming she had emails to catch up on. Donald stayed downstairs, the TV on low, but he wasn't watching. He was thinking about that receipt, the wine, the lies stacking up like cards. He didn't sleep much that night. Lying in bed, he listened to Melania's steady breathing beside him, her phone charging on her side of the bed, screen dark. He wanted to check it to see if C had texted, but he stopped himself. That wasn't him. Instead, he stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past week. Her new perfume, the way she avoided his questions, the sudden team lunches that never happened before. By morning, his resolve hardened. He'd wait for Sarah's findings, but he was already preparing for the truth, whatever it was. As Melania left for work, her goodbye kiss was quick, perfunctory. "Big day today," she said, already halfway out the door. Donald watched her car disappear down the street, then grabbed his phone. Sarah had texted, "Got something? Meet me tomorrow." His heart pounded, but he felt a strange clarity. Whatever came next, he'd face it, not with anger, but with the steady determination that had carried him through every challenge before. Donald woke to the buzz of his phone at 6 a.m., his body tensed before his eyes even opened. Sarah's message read, "Coffee shop, 8 a.m. Bring nothing but yourself." He slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Melania, who was still asleep, her phone clutched under her pillow. He drove to the community center first, setting up cones for soccer practice, his movements mechanical. The kids arrived, their energy a brief distraction, but his mind churned with questions about what Sarah had found. By 7:45, he was at the coffee shop, a small place near downtown Austin, where Sarah waited at a corner table, a manila folder in front of her. She didn't waste time. "Melania's been meeting someone," Sarah said, sliding the folder across. Donald opened it, his hands steady despite the knot in his chest. Photos showed Melania outside a sleek office building, laughing with a man, tall, sharp-suited, maybe late 30s. In one, she touched his arm. In another, they stood close, sharing a look that wasn't professional. Sarah pointed to a name on a printout. Chris Dalton, senior manager at Melania's firm. "They've been seen together multiple times," Sarah said. "Lunch spots, after-hours drinks, always away from her usual haunts." Donald's throat tightened. "Anything else?" Sarah hesitated, then handed over a single page. Hotel records from the Driscoll, showing a room booked under Chris's name the night of the receipt. Donald exhaled slowly, the evidence stacking like bricks. He thanked Sarah, paid for her coffee, and left, the folder tucked under his arm. Driving home, he noticed Melania's car was already gone. She'd left no note, no text, just another early meeting excuse from the night before. He parked, then sat in his truck, flipping through the photos again. Each one carved a deeper cut. At home, he hid the folder in his toolbox in the garage, a place Melania never checked. He spent the day coaching, but his usual focus faltered. A player missed an easy goal, and Donald barely corrected him. Back home, Melania returned at 7 p.m., dropping her keys on the counter with a clatter. "Rough day," she said, scrolling her phone as she grabbed a water bottle. Donald watched her, searching for cracks in her routine. She avoided his gaze, her fingers tapping the screen rapidly before she set it face down. "Dinner?" she asked, already heading upstairs. He cooked in silence, chopping vegetables with precision, his thoughts racing. Over dinner, he asked about her day, keeping his tone casual. "Same old," she said, picking at her plate. "Client presentations, endless emails." Her answers were too smooth, like lines from script. Donald nodded, but his eyes caught her phone lighting up with a notification. She snatched it, silencing it without a glance. "Work never stops," she muttered, changing the subject to his team's upcoming game. He played along, but the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Later, as Melania showered, Donald checked her planner again. Another C marked tomorrow's date, this time with a time, 8 p.m. He snapped a photo of the page, his heart pounding. He didn't touch her phone. Too risky, but he texted Sarah, "Track her tomorrow night." Sarah replied instantly, "On it." Donald paced the living room, the TV flickering unwatched. He remembered their early years, late-night talks, shared dreams, her laugh when he burned their first Thanksgiving turkey. Now, those memories felt like relics, overshadowed by her secrecy. The next day, Donald kept busy, leading a double practice session and meeting with parents about the fundraiser. But every free moment, his mind drifted to Melania's planner, to Chris, to the hotel. At 6 p.m., Melania texted, "Staying late, team dinner after." He didn't respond. Instead, he drove to a park near her office, parking out of sight. At 8:15, Sarah called. She's at a bar downtown, the Roosevelt. With him, they're at a back table, not exactly hiding. Donald gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "Stay there," he said. "I'm coming." He arrived at the Roosevelt, a trendy spot with low lights and a buzzing crowd. Through the window, he spotted them, Melania leaning close to Chris, her hand on his. Donald didn't go inside. He stood frozen, the sight confirming what the photos only hinted at. Sarah joined him, her voice low. You want me to keep digging? I can check his background, see how deep this goes. Donald nodded, his jaw tight. Find out everything. I need to know who I'm dealing with. He drove home, the city lights blurring past, his mind set on a plan. Not revenge, but clarity. That night, Melania came home at 11, humming softly, her purse slung over her shoulder. Fun dinner, she said, kicking off her shoes. Donald sat on the couch, pretending to read. Good team, he asked, his voice even. She froze for a split second, then laughed. Yeah, the usual crew. She kissed his cheek, a fleeting gesture, and headed to bed. Donald stayed downstairs, the folder's contents replaying in his head. He wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. But with every lie, the gap between them widened, and he knew the truth was closer than ever. Donald barely slept, his mind looping through images of Melania and Chris at the Roosevelt. By 5 a.m., he was up, lacing his sneakers for a run to clear his head. The Austin streets were quiet, the pre-dawn air sharp against his skin. Each step pounded out his frustration, but clarity emerged. He needed more than photos to confront this. He showered, then drove to the school, setting up for practice with mechanical precision. His phone buzzed at 7:30. Sarah. Got more. Meet me at noon. Same spot. At the coffee shop, Sarah slid a USB drive across the table. Emails, she said, her voice low. Hacked from a burner account Chris uses. He's been careless. Donald plugged the drive into his laptop, scanning the messages. They were explicit. Melania and Chris planning meetups, joking about work trips, even mentioning a weekend getaway next month. One email referenced a gift, a necklace Melania had worn last week, claiming it was from a client. Donald's chest tightened, but he kept his face neutral. Anything on his personal life? He asked. Sarah nodded. Married, 2 kids. His wife, Laura, doesn't know. I got her contact if you need it. Donald spent the afternoon at the community center, hauling chairs for the fundraiser, his hands busy, but his thoughts elsewhere. He saved Laura's number, debating whether to reach out. Back home, Melania was already there, unusual for a Wednesday. She was on the couch, typing furiously on her laptop, her phone buzzing beside her. Early day, Donald asked, leaning against the counter. She flinched, closing her laptop. Yeah, wrapped up a project, she said, her smile tight. She stood, grabbing her phone, and headed upstairs, muttering about a call. He waited until the shower started, then checked her planner again. Tomorrow's page had a new mark, C, 9 p.m., W Hotel. His stomach churned. He texted Sarah, follow her tomorrow night. Hotel. Sarah replied, got it. Be careful. Donald cooked dinner, his knife slicing through peppers with controlled force. Over dinner, Melania was chatty, talking about a coworker's promotion, but her eyes darted to her phone every few minutes. Donald played along, asking questions, noting how she steered the conversation away from her plans. The next evening, Donald coached a late practice, his voice steady as he drilled the team on defense. At 8:45, Sarah texted, she's at the W Hotel bar. With him, they're heading upstairs. A photo followed, Melania and Chris, arms linked, stepping into an elevator. Donald gripped his phone, his pulse racing. He thanked the team, ended practice early, and drove to a quiet lot near the hotel. Sarah met him there, her car parked discreetly. Room 712, she said. I can get you keycard access if you want to see for yourself. Donald shook his head. No, I need evidence, not a scene. Sarah handed him a small recorder. Audio from their table at the bar. It's enough. Donald drove home, the device burning a hole in his pocket. He played it in the garage, the muffled voices unmistakable. Melania's laugh, Chris's low murmur, talk of getting away, and no one suspecting. The recording cut off as they left the bar. Donald's hands shook, not with rage, but with the weight of betrayal confirmed. He copied the audio to his laptop, then hid the recorder in his toolbox with the folder. Melania came home at 1 a.m., slipping into bed quietly. Donald lay still, feigning sleep, her perfume, a new, sharp scent, filling the air. The next morning, she left early, claiming a breakfast meeting. Donald called in sick, something he never did, and drove to a park to think. He replayed the audio, each word a nail in the coffin of their marriage. He texted Laura, Chris's wife, attaching a single photo from the Roosevelt and a brief message. "We need to talk." "I am sorry," Laura replied within minutes. "Meet me at 2 p.m. Barton Springs Cafe." At the cafe, Laura sat rigid, her eyes red but her voice steady. Donald shared the photos, the hotel records, the audio, everything. She listened, her hands clasped tightly. "I suspected," she said. "He's been distant, but I didn't want to believe it." She thanked Donald, promising to handle it her way. He left, feeling lighter, not because of revenge, but because the truth was no longer his alone to carry. Back home, he planned his next move, a calm confrontation, no yelling, just facts. He'd lay out the evidence and let Melania decide her fate. That night, Melania texted, "Late again, client dinner." Donald didn't reply. He sat at the kitchen table, the folder and recorder ready, his resolve like steel. The clock ticked past 10 p.m., each minute sharpening his focus. He wasn't the man who trusted blindly anymore. He was ready to face her, to demand the honesty she'd denied him, and to take back control of his life. Donald sat at the kitchen table, the folder and recorder in front of him, the clock ticking toward 11 p.m. He'd reheated leftovers, set 2 plates, and waited. Melania's text from an hour ago, wrapping up, "Home soon," felt hollow, another line in her script. He'd spent the day coaching, his voice steady for the kids, but his mind was locked on tonight. The front door clicked open, and Melania stepped in, kicking off her heels. She froze when she saw the table, the evidence laid out like a courtroom exhibit. "What's this?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Sit," Donald said, his tone even. She hesitated, then pulled out a chair, her eyes darting to the photos. He pushed a folder toward her. "Open it." Her hands trembled as she flipped through the images. Her and Chris at the Roosevelt, the W Hotel, the elevator. She opened her mouth, but Donald raised a hand. "Listen first." He played the recorder, their voices filling the room. Her laugh, Chris's whispers about getting away. Her face drained of color, her fingers gripping the table's edge. "It's not what you think," she started, but her voice cracked. "Then explain," Donald said, leaning back. Melania stammered, claiming work stress, late-night brainstorming, a friendship that got out of hand. Donald cut her off. "You booked hotel rooms. You lied about meetings. You wore a necklace he bought you." Her eyes widened. She hadn't expected him to know that. She slumped, the fight leaving her. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "It just did." Donald nodded, not in agreement, but in acknowledgement. "Pack a bag. I need you out tonight." Melania stood, her movements slow, like she was processing a verdict. She climbed the stairs, and Donald heard drawers opening, a suitcase zipping. He didn't follow. Instead, he texted Sarah, "It's done. Thanks." She replied, "You okay?" He didn't answer, just poured a glass of water and stared at the photos, now scattered across the table. Melania came down with a small bag, her eyes red but dry. "I'll stay at a hotel," she said. "We'll talk tomorrow." Donald shook his head. "No, we're done talking. My lawyer will reach out." She left without another word, her car engine fading into the night. Donald locked the door, then called Laura, Chris's wife. "I told her," he said. Laura's voice was steady but strained. "I confronted him too. He's moving out tomorrow." I didn't linger on the call, just a shared understanding of parallel wounds. Donald hung up, then gathered the evidence, storing it in a safe in his office. He wasn't vengeful, but he'd protect himself. He spent the night on the couch, the house too quiet, his mind racing with what came next. The next morning, Donald met with a divorce lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Karen. She reviewed the evidence, nodding approvingly. "This is clean. No need for a messy fight." They drafted papers, prioritizing a fair split of assets. Donald insisted on keeping the house. He built his life here, coaching kids, hosting barbecues. By noon, he was back at the school, running drills with the team. The kids' energy grounded him, their laughter a reminder of what he could still control. A parent stopped by, praising his dedication, unaware of the chaos in his personal life. Melania texted once, "Can we meet to sort this out?" Donald didn't reply. He focused on the fundraiser, finalizing details for the weekend event. Sarah dropped by, offering to help set up booths. "You did the right thing," she said, stacking chairs beside him. Donald shrugged. "Doesn't feel like winning." She nodded, understanding. That evening, He cooked for one, the act oddly calming. He checked his phone. Laura had sent a message, filed for divorce. Thank you for the truth. He felt a flicker of relief, not for her pain, but for her strength. Days passed, and Melania moved into an apartment downtown. She called, leaving voicemails about figuring things out, but Donald let them pile up. He hired a mediator to handle communication, keeping things civil. At the fundraiser, the community showed up in droves, kids running through games, parents bidding on auction items. Donald emceed, his voice steady, even as he scanned the crowd for Melania, half expecting her to appear. She didn't. A colleague clapped his shoulder, saying, "You're the heart of this place." The words stung, but they also fueled him. By week's end, Donald met Karen again. The divorce papers were ready to serve. He signed them, his hand steady, then drove to the park where he'd once proposed to Melania. He sat on a bench, watching families play, and felt the weight of the past months shift, not gone but lighter. He wasn't broken. He was moving forward, one deliberate step at a time, toward a life he'd rebuild on his own terms. Donald woke early, the Austin sunrise casting long shadows across his bedroom. He finalized the divorce papers with Karen, his lawyer, via a quick call, ensuring all terms protected his assets and peace. By 8 a.m., he was at the school, prepping for a Saturday soccer clinic he'd organized for underprivileged kids. He set up goals, his hands steady, the routine anchoring him. Parents arrived, thanking him for the free program, their gratitude a quiet balm for the chaos of the past weeks. At noon, he checked his phone. No messages from Melania, just a confirmation from the mediator. She'd received the papers. Donald drove to a local bookstore to clear his mind, browsing travel guides for a solo trip he was planning. A woman, Lisa, reached for the same Iceland guidebook, their hands brushing. She laughed, introducing herself as a history teacher at a nearby middle school. They talked for an hour. Volcanoes, glaciers, her passion for teaching kids about resilience. Her warmth felt genuine, untainted by the lies Donald had unraveled. He left with her number, a spark of possibility igniting. Days later, the fundraiser Donald had planned packed the community center. He manned a raffle table, joking with kids while parents bid on local art. Sarah stopped by, updating him. Melania had taken a leave from her firm, rumored to be reassessing her career. Chris, meanwhile, faced a workplace inquiry after Laura exposed his misuse of company expenses for their rendezvous. Donald nodded, unsurprised but focused on the event. A teen from his team won a bike, his grin wide as he rode it around the lot. Donald clapped, the moment pulling him back to what mattered. He met Lisa for coffee the next week, their conversation flowing from travel to shared values. She'd started a mentorship program at her school, pairing kids with local professionals. "You'd be great at it," she said, her eyes bright. Donald signed up, spending weekends guiding teens through career talks, his coaching skills translating effortlessly. The work filled a void, each session a step toward rebuilding. Lisa joined him at one, her presence steady, her laughter a contrast to the tension he'd lived with for months. Melania reached out through the mediator, requesting a meeting. Donald agreed, choosing a public park to keep it neutral. She sat on a bench, her posture rigid, her voice low. "I've started therapy," she said. "I know I broke us." She admitted the affair had been an escape from work stress, a mistake she couldn't undo. Donald listened, his face calm. "I don't hate you," he said, "but I can't trust you." He wished her well, then walked away, the finality settling like a closed book. Melania stayed on the bench, staring at the ground as he left. Laura texted him that evening. Chris had lost his job, and their divorce was underway. She thanked Donald again, mentioning she'd joined a support group, finding strength in community. Donald felt no satisfaction in Chris's downfall, just relief that the truth had consequences. He focused on his own path, coaching with renewed energy, planning a hiking trip with Lisa. They explored Austin's trails, her curiosity about local history matching his love for new challenges. Their connection deepened, rooted in mutual respect. Months later, the divorce finalized. Donald kept the house, selling Melania's share through the mediator. He redecorated sparingly, adding photos from the soccer clinic and a map for his Iceland trip. At the season's final game, his team won 3-1, the stands roaring. Lisa was there, cheering beside parents, her smile a quiet promise. After, they grabbed tacos at a food truck, planning a summer mentorship camp. Donald felt whole, not because the pain was gone, but because he'd chosen integrity over bitterness. Melania took a teaching job at a community college, her LinkedIn showing a shift to part-time work. She lived alone, her posts sparse, focused on professional development. Donald didn't check often, but when he did, he felt no anger, just distance. He hosted a barbecue for his team, Lisa helping grill, the backyard alive with laughter. As the sun set, he looked at her, then at the kids chasing a ball, and knew he'd built something real. The past was a lesson, not a chain. He was free, not because he'd won, but because he'd chosen to move forward with a clear heart.